welcome to the show. I'm Eric Murphy. This is Skeptic Generation, and we need to talk. Hey, everybody. It's June 16th, 2024. It is the middle of Pride Month, and I want to talk about it. Before I dive into anything else, let me put the phone number up so we can get some callers in and have some conversations. The phone number is 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or you can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. If you want that crystal clear audio, it seems to do best when people call online. But either way, I would be happy to talk to you and make this an episode that we can do a full show on. But yeah, no, I know that I mentioned last week, I said Happy Pride, but it's interesting to come out more than once, right? For most people who watch the show, they're non-believers. And that means that you have probably, if you are LGBTQIA plus, needed to drop some hard truths to friends and family members more than once. And I've gotten varying results from people about what was harder or what had a bigger effect on family. And I would love to talk to you all and find out what your stories are. And I'll be happy to start with myself. I came out as an atheist long before anything else. And over the years as an atheist and then doing the YouTube stuff, I'd kind of weeded out of my family all of the real toxic ones. And so by the time I finally did come out, mostly the reaction was, yeah, we figured. It wasn't that bad. And I'm really grateful for it. And I know not everybody is lucky enough to have the same experience as me or had those toxic family members still, active in their lives. But that's not everybody's story. And then on top of that, I just want to talk about Pride a little bit. People associate Pride with these big festivals and parades and concerts and everything like that. And I just want to, put it out there that not all queer people like big crowds. I'm celebrating this weekend with my partner. We're going to get baked and watch Dungeon Meshi after the show. And that sounds perfect to me. However you want to celebrate, yourself, however you want to do that is entirely up to you. And I don't think that we need to necessarily get into this whole corporate, sponsored, event. Some people love it, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But that's not necessarily what I like. And that's not necessarily where I go. And that's okay. I don't hear enough people talk about that, so I definitely wanted to bring that up. With that said, I am going to need to start vamping pretty soon because I don't have callers. So let me put the phone number up one more time before I get a little more in depth because I would prefer to talk to people. So let's get this up here. 412-SKEPGEN. That's 412-753-7436. Or if you don't want to call using the phone, and by the way, it's toll free. Everything is covered by us. You can go to tiny.cc/SKEPGEN to call in. Our call screener Bree is ready and waiting to talk to you. And I'm so grateful for that. Oh my goodness. Just the amount of support in this community, the people who've gathered around this show, it's been truly, truly beautiful. And I'm really, really happy to see the kind of community that is getting built around it. It's patient, it's empathetic, but it also doesn't give on what's important. And I really, really appreciate that. We can disagree with people, but we can do so without calling them a moron, So yeah, but that's, and by the way, if you obviously want to call in about, what you believe and why, I want to hear it. If you are in the LGBTQIA plus community and you still believe, I would love to talk to people about how they square their faith with their gender expression and sexuality. Because a lot of times those things come into conflict, and I was not around in church to really see that happening, after Prop 8 and the legalization of gay marriage across the country. That was not something that I was there to see, and so I don't have that experience to interact with, and I'd love to hear it. So you are also welcome to call in. I have one person who is getting screened right now, and as soon as they do, I'm going to grab them in. But let's see. What else? Man, it's incredible, the difference. I'm sorry. I just need to gush a little bit. I've been out here in Portland for about a year now, just a little over a year. And in Texas, it has been hot and humid for months already. And going outside, it would be a miserable trek. And out here in Portland, it is cool and clear and sunny and bright and beautiful. And I'm absolutely loving it. There's a huge international test garden for roses. This massive, famous rose garden that is just blooming and beautiful in the middle of town. That it's a wonderful experience. I hope y'all are enjoying your summer. And what kind of Pride events are going on in your area? I know that it's not going to be for another month here in Portland, but everybody else is already celebrating. I'm seeing news and videos of concerts and things going on in other cities, and I'm interested. I want to know. All right, let me see here. Check in the comments. I just want to pull a little bit of time before we get going. Did I move to Portland, Oregon? I did. Trevor, the bandana guy in the comments. Yeah. V and I left Austin, Texas, and we moved to Portland, Oregon in, I want to say, April, May of last year, and have been settling in and enjoying it. Texas is just a little too crazy, and the politics were getting really wild, and I was no longer enjoying the atheist community out there, so it was time to go. It was time to do something new, and I'm really grateful that I did. I'm loving it here. So yeah. All right, anything else in the comments that I can read or go through? That way I'm not just vamping about nothing. Let's see here. I'm glad corporations are supportive because it gets the whole idea out into the public, says Empress Lizard, but they're just using it to make a buck. That's a little distasteful. It is a double-edged sword. I agree. And at the same time, if our choices are corporations doubling down on pride and making money off of it, or pretending it's not happening at all, are there third options? Would we prefer corporations to stay out of pride? Or is it part of something bigger that's beneficial or not in the corporatization of queer culture and iconography? It's definitely not something that I normally would take on the show, but yeah, I'm interested. All right, so as I get this person dialed in so that I can get them up one more time, 412 SKEPGEN, that's 412-753-7436, or tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. If you wanted to call in, you were wondering, today is the day. It doesn't just need to be Pride. You can just call in. Okay, let me get this person's lower third in while they're finishing getting screened, and I will bring them right in. One moment. This is the one part about hosting and producing at the same time. I've kind of got to do it all. So let me just grab them really quick. Danny in Oregon.
Hi, Eric.
Hey.
Oh my God. I'm so excited.
I'm excited too. You are saving my ass. You were the first person to call in, and I'm incredibly grateful.
I have been wanting to talk to you for so long. So we talked a little tiny bit on a different show. Doesn't matter which one.
That's okay.
And
you can always mention other, like, I'm not one of those people who's like grumpy and don't ever want to mention that Talk Heathen and Atheist Experience, and those shows exist.
It was Talk Heathen.
Oh,
I just don't
cool.
remember who was on the show at the time.
Oh, no worries. Well,
I know it
very
was you, but
okay. Well, thank you for following and finding where I went. That's really cool.
you have no idea. I will not lose you. Okay.
Aw, yay.
I will not. I will find you wherever you go. I watch as much as I can when I can. But I really, so did they put anything what I wanted to talk about specific?
They did. I have how religion affects things like ADHD and identity.
Yes.
So that's super broad. Hit me. Talk to me. What's going on?
Yeah. So first things first, I will ramble, and you are absolute. Please cut me off and veer me back into.
Thank you.
So,
As a host on a show that where people are watching, I will do my best to try and make sure that we're moving things along. Go ahead.
Yeah, my ADHD is ridiculous, and I will actually explain this. Okay. So long story short, my family, we'll just say extremely religious. There's different levels of it, but we'll just say that. And that makes it easy because they're fairly, lots of unneeded rules, lots of can't think this way type stuff, thought control and whatnot.
Yeah.
These are literal trauma to those with ADHD and autism. Like actual trauma. Like the difference between someone being screamed at for minutes and just little things like this is the same. Because it's like we're forcing ourselves into pain.
Can you give me a little bit more specific?
Mental pain. So what it does is it so I'm sorry, I am so deep into it because and I didn't give enough context. Let's see. Let's go back.
It's okay.
So essentially what I would put it as it's like a mental we create mental blocks, and those mental blocks are stopping us from being ourselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And when we're not ourselves as people with ADHD and autism, it's not just like, oh, I'm not being me. It's literal pain. I it is very hard to explain.
Can I take a stab at it?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So what's interesting about I obviously can only speak to my experience, right? I had my church experience, and because of that, I don't know everyone else's, but I definitely know that in my church, masking was not just an autistic thing. Masking was a thing that everyone did because it was a survival tactic.
Yes, absolutely.
And so we needed to pretend to be the perfect family, right? I needed to be a perfect son, a perfect brother, a perfect, witness. It wasn't enough that I, would go and be there for the church, the interchurch softball team. And it wasn't enough that we would go every other Sunday to go, or every other Saturday to go feed the homeless, or that there was, my men's study group on one day and youth study group. And then there was the youth, that whole clique. It wasn't enough that I moved my music preferences over from, something more rock focused to, Christian rock. It also meant that I needed to, volunteer and teach vacation Bible school over the summer, and volunteer with kids. I have to imagine that when it comes to masking, it definitely would probably feel more normalized. Thinking about it from this standpoint, if everybody's doing it, then obviously it must be what you should be doing. And so you have
I've got a really good example.
Yeah, hit me.
So it's less of masking and more of trauma. And it is part of the masking part. It's part of how we're forcing our brains to literally just be a mask. So essentially this is what happened when I was a kid. I remember telling my mom that voices, I'm hearing voices, is this God? Because that's essentially what I was taught. Whatever voices, it's got to be God. And my mom said, well, can you change the voice's sounds? And I was like, I don't know. Like, well, if you can, then it's demons. And so,
Ugh.
yeah, I know the logic of the time. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it pretty much that was their answer, my mom's answer, all the way past all the way up to 18, because even there was a point where I was dealing with insane inability to sleep and things like that. And what was the problem? Oh, it's a spiritual battle.
Everything is.
It's a spiritual battle.
Everything
Yeah,
is. Absolutely.
but you patch it, so you're patching the problems with putrid fucking just nastiness, and it just turns into a, well, what happened to me? I had to go to the hospital and essentially almost died, and realized that I'm not made for this type of system, and I've had to change my entire life,
Yeah.
like entire dramatically. Yeah, I would definitely say there's not enough time to go throughout all of it, but I think when it comes down to the trauma aspect, it is much, much, much more prominent than I think most anyone knows.
I absolutely agree with you. Danny, well, first off, I feel like this is a great time to plug Recovering from Religion Foundation for anyone who hasn't
Yes,
heard of
yes,
it.
yes.
I think Recovering from Religion Foundation does amazing work. People can call the toll-free peer support line by dialing 184 I doubt it, or going to recoveringfromreligion.org. I've had some really long kind of conversation evenings with Dr. Daryl Ray specifically about how religious trauma, can have an incredibly big impact on people's, mental health and well-being. And
Hmm.
I absolutely agree with you. I know that, talking about it, for those of us on the other side of it, it might feel like, why do we need to go back there? And I think it's important to bring it up for those people who are still there, for people who are still
Oh
dealing
yeah,
with it, or not really recognizing and giving the time to it. So, no,
yeah.
I'm
I'm actually
go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. I'm working with a professional right now who's actually a friend, and we're working on a book, and a couple other things as well. And some of this is we're working on tools, and we're working on how to essentially allow yourself to your to treat your body nicely, but not we're not talking like eat better food. We're talking like treating your mental, like your subconscious, as its own thing.
Okay. No,
And
that's definitely how
yeah,
I deal with my depression. Right.
yeah,
I have clinical depression, and when that rears its head, I definitely treat it as if it's not a part of me, and go, "Oh, that's the depression."
yeah,
Have you
yeah.
tried reaching out to Daryl for your book?
No, I haven't tried reaching out to anybody. We've just mainly got it started, so pretty much, and I'm gonna make it super short so that I don't know if you have any callers yet, but I
I
don't have any. Go ahead.
you've honestly been my lifeline. I've got a couple more callers who've come in on the line, so I appreciate
Perfect,
that.
because yeah. So what I want to do is I want to do some. I need to write things down because I literally will go off onto tangents and stuff and then not know where I'm at and then forget. So I'm gonna write things down, and
Okay.
then are you gonna be on next week?
Oh, absolutely. I'm on every week. This is it. This is what I do.
Sweet. I haven't. I will admit I haven't really noticed as much, but now that I've seen that you're on, I'll try and follow a bit more. But I'll try and remember to call either next week or the week after. I want to do a bit of I'll have it written down a little bit so that I have structure. Because
Just
otherwise, I'll just go off.
Hey, no worries. Just as long as this is a dialogue that we can have,
Yeah,
Anytime that it moves into like,
it's mostly opinion.
well, as long as it doesn't move into like presentation territory, because anytime that
Okay.
somebody tries to share like their full story or a presentation,
Oh, it gets boring.
the audience, yeah, it gets boring for people, and I know
It's
that can
so
be,
fucking boring.
yeah. So as long as like we can shape that in a conversation that we can dialogue about, I'm super happy for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What would be the best? What would you suggest?
Write that stuff down, like you said, and then find those
Hmm.
things that you want to have a dialogue about.
Okay.
Pick those, and you're good to go. Danny, thank you for calling.
I absolutely love you guys. It's like
Appreciate you.
my fucking pleasure. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
What a sweetheart. Oh my goodness, saving my butt, being a just absolutely kind person. I'm definitely grateful for that. All right. Ooh, we've got quite a few. Oh, I'm very, very grateful. Okay, so I have two callers on the line. That's definitely not enough for the whole day. So before I move on, I do want to prop this up. Don't think that the call lines are full. We still have room. If you want to call in, today is a great day. 412 SKEPGEN. That's tiny.cc/SKEPGEN. Give us a call. I'm waiting to hear from you. In the meantime, let's talk to a Canadian. Dan in Canada. Dan the Canuck. Welcome to the show.
How you doing? Thank you.
Hey, doing good. How about yourself?
You know what? I'm having a good one. Got
Nice.
a reasonable night's sleep, a couple of cups of coffee downrange, and now I'm here.
All right. Hey, I'm trying to follow you. I got my energy drink. I'm trying to pound this thing down to get focused in. It says in the notes that you got a pretty serious one about passing and the kind of relationship. Do you want to kind of lay the groundwork? Talk to me.
Yeah. So, oh, my partner and I, we passed for a straight couple.
Okay.
My partner's non-binary. We're both bisexual, but we passed for a straight couple. So, family doesn't ask questions. Traveling is something that we both enjoy, and it makes it a lot safer. Because we kind of bebop all over North America when we have the money and time.
Nice.
And yeah, so it doesn't come up organically.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So, are you asking about whether or not that's okay, or like what's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess in a broad stroke sense, am I doing a disservice to myself by not bringing it up, or is
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. No, I got you. Can I pick up
Yeah,
and
yeah.
help out?
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm fumbling for words.
No worries. And I appreciate it. I can tell, I can hear that you're trying to shield the phone from the wind, and I appreciate that. So here's what I think, it's the same advice that I give to people when it comes to coming out as an atheist. Honestly, if you can, you should. If you can, and it is safe to do so, cool. If you can't, don't. If it is not safe for you in whatever situation, to whatever degree that you feel like that's not a good idea, don't. But I don't think any of us here are here to judge you. The reason why you would want to come out, at least for me, why I did it, is because I'm not financially dependent on anybody in that. I'm not going to lose out on some big structural integrity piece of my life by coming out. I've already gotten shitty people out of my life, so it's not like I'm worried about losing, personal and familial relationships that I haven't already gotten rid of. I don't have a whole lot to lose, so it's gotten pretty easy for me to do that, and it's a privileged place for me to be in. Lots of people are not in that situation. A lot of people are still living with their parents. You know, a lot of people have workplace situations that can kick them out, you know, or fire them. And a lot of people are travel to areas where that's just not a good idea. It's not a safe thing to do. And why would you know what I mean? So I guess the better question is, do you find yourself traveling to places, or are you worried about preserving certain relationships by if you came out?
Well, travel one's easier to talk about first.
Okay.
So, um, yeah, without trying to be a dick, I mean, traveling through your country at times makes me feel somewhat less safe.
Dan, I moved from Texas to Oregon because I did not feel safe. You're fine.
So,
You're
yeah,
yeah.
no, like I said, it's a legitimate concerns. Places I've been, I mean, some places it's not necessarily the place; it's how far from home I am.
Hmm.
So it's like the worry if something happens while traveling.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, there are some places where it's just like, you know, not going to hang around Detroit for the same reason I'm not going to fly a rainbow flag in Alabama.
You know what's funny is number one, I've hung out in Detroit and it was not it was not bad, but also like the people who do fly rainbow flags in Alabama, they'll fight. They will punch you out if you touch their you know like they're intense. But I agree that it's definitely a choice of putting yourself out there. That yeah, no, I if that's the case, I mean, I can give you a more extreme example, like, right? Like, if I were to go to Qatar, you better fucking believe I'm not going to say a damn thing about being an atheist or about being queer. No way.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is literally against the law. No, thank you. You know, it's one of the benefits that we have being non-believers. I remember as a Christian, we would create these like scenarios for ourselves about how we would affirm our faith no matter what. And if the you know the one world government came into play, I'm sorry, this was during like the Left Behind, you know, Fear of the Rapture type
Oh yeah,
series and all of that, right?
yeah.
If the one world government comes and they put a gun to your head and, you know, and say, "Are you a Christian?" Oh my gosh. And after like Columbine too, right? "Are you a Christian?" I would say, "Yes, I am a Christian." And I'd let them blow my brains out knowing that I was, you know, firm in my faith. Fuck that. If somebody points a gun to my head and says, "Are you Muslim?" I'd say, "Allahu Akbar." Like, are you kidding me? Who am I trying to impress? I'd rather go home at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as the travel situation is concerned, that totally makes sense, right? Go with what feels comfortable and what's going to be safe for you and yours. Are you finding yourself wanting to pass as a straight couple for family or for friends or to preserve those relationships? And if you don't want to talk about that,
Uh,
totally cool. Just say so. We can not do that.
no, no, no. I called up with the topic, so I mean, it'd be real awkward for a talk show to not talk.
Hey, you know what?
Um,
It would be really awkward. And this is my damn show. And I'm going to respect people's boundaries. Not every show does. This one does. So, yeah.
no. When it comes to family, I am incredibly glad the conversation hasn't come up because I would have some family members I expect wouldn't understand,
Mhm.
um, and like immediate family members that I don't want to deal with that with.
Yeah. And that's really going to be, you know, a personal decision between you and your family, you know? And your comfortability and the type of relationship you want to have with them is going to determine the correct answer. I can't give you a firm yes or no. I apologize.
Oh, no, no,
Like,
no. I wasn't looking for like you should do this. You know,
yeah,
the book of queerness says so. But like,
right. Yeah.
No, it was more of a broader question, less specific about me, and more as like, is taking a almost isolationist view a cop out, or should I be more representative for the sake of others?
I think that if you have the privilege of being able to do that for others, you should. And that's just because people like me, I have the privilege to be able to do so. And so for those people who don't, then I feel like I need to. But I'm not I'm not going to I'm not going to try and do that kind of personal math for everybody. And so for whatever people's reasons are, and I'll give you an example. I know I've talked to a lot of people who have not wanted to come out as queer or atheist until grandma dies. you they don't want
That makes sense.
grandma's close to passing and she's never gonna get it. It's too late. Let's just not make that something grandma's gonna deal with on her deathbed. And I've okay, that's okay. What's important is you look in the mirror and you go, you know what, I'm comfortable with the decisions that I'm making for the reasons that I'm making them, and that's good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to make decisions that are best for me and my partner
Good.
these days. So it's
That's a family.
it seems like the easy path sometimes, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I thought it was worth talking about.
oh, it is. It is for sure. What's funny is that I without giving too personal about my stuff, is I have a partner who is considerably more mask presenting, much more mask presenting than before, and I feel like there's a direct correlation between that change and my family actually recognizing that I'm not straight. There's just been this really kind of unique shift in the way that I see them, seeing our family dynamic, and it's been interesting. But no, I absolutely agree. It can be hard for people to get it until they see it.
Yeah,
So
I mean, seeing is believing, as they say.
yeah, yeah. And I never brought a boy home. Are you fucking kidding me? I didn't even find out until 30. So like that was never a thing that they, yeah. But anyway, Dan, it sounds like you're making the right decisions for you and yours. And as somebody who has been in your situation, I see you, man. I see you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. You deserve to be here. All right. Hey, thank you for calling in though, and you take care of yourself today.
Absolutely. Hope you get a lot more calls.
Well, I'm glad. I've got 3 more on the line, and I'm grateful for it. So yeah, I'm gonna dive in. I'll talk to you next time.
Sounds good.
All
Cheers.
right. Okay, let's just roll on through into our next call. Let's talk to Chase in the U.S. Chase, you're live. How's it
What's
going?
up?
Hey.
What's up, my dude? How you doing?
I am loving your energy. I feel like you're bringing me up already. How are you doing?
Oh, that's the bipolar to thank.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Okay. So you want to talk about being bisexual and living with religious bigots, huh?
Yeah. I hate to say it like that because they're my parents and I love them and they're usually nice to me in most ways, but they bigots nonetheless.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's it is really really uncomfortable for loved ones to deal with. I remember calling my uncle a racist and he got really, really uncomfortable about it. But it was right after he told me that he thought that, you know, black people were genetically predisposed to crime. And I was like, that is racism. You are doing a racism.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and yeah, no, if you're gonna be a bigot, then you know that is what it is. But what about it did you want to talk about?
Well, I guess just the dynamics, it's a rough situation. Like it's a mutual caregiver type situation because, like I said, I got bipolar and PTSD, so I'm on disability,
Mhm.
which is only like 10 grand a year, so I can't really afford a place to live, and they're letting me stay here for free, which is great of them. And they're, elderly now, and I help take care of their dogs and their yard work and stuff like that. Um, but so we're kind of a little bit dependent on each other, and so we don't usually talk about this stuff these days, but there has been times where it's come up, or where they have missionaries coming over, like their friends are all religious people that hold the same beliefs and same political views and everything. And if they like, they're not as bad as it could be. Like they could be out there with on the streets with signs about it, but they're not, so that's good. But and they're not preaching at me about it or nothing. But you can tell, like, they're really uncomfortable about the situation. They will sometimes say something, or you'll hear something in the background as you're walking through the room, you know. And it's disappointing. And I live in a small little town where I don't have a community of like-minded people in any regard, really, like politically, or I'm just surrounded by this same type of people.
Yeah. I so are you in like a really rural place? Sorry, I
Yeah,
I you're talking to someone who is ADHD, and so I tend to sometimes go in and out. So I apologize if I'm asking you to repeat yourself.
that's okay.
But yeah, no, that's got to be a really frustrating scenario. Is it a comfortable place for you to be able to talk about it? Do you want to talk about it, or is it just like, no, I'm going to keep this in, and it's really frustrating?
No, I'm doing all right. I've been living with them now for 3 years,
Mhm.
and I do love them. Even despite our differences and stuff. And it's just, I guess I'm hoping that others can find some hope from this situation, from this story. That if
Yeah.
they're struggling with a similar type situation of one kind or another, where they're just kind of stuck in a place for right now, and hoping to make the best of it, and strategies to do so by mostly not talking about it too much, I guess, is the approach I'm using, because it usually leads to fights.
Well, I mean, what would happen if you brought a boy home?
Oh, well, they'd probably kick me out. Yeah, I mean,
But if it's mutual care, like if they're also depending on you, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot, wouldn't they?
well, I think I'm more dependent on them than they are of me. They're more financially
Mm,
stable.
got it.
Yeah, so they could start living in a home or something.
Got it. Okay. Okay.
Whereas I'd have to, find roommates galore to,
Yeah, that sucks.
or go back to living in my car, which I have trauma from living in my car, like. But
Yeah.
I don't want to take up all the time with my drama or nothing. I just wanted to share that.
No worries, Chase. I'm glad you called in, and I'm sending you a hug from Portland. And I hope that you see a way out of that at some point, because that's a rough place to be, and
you know,
you do deserve better than that.
I will say this though. My mom, for the past couple years, even has been fine with calling transgender people by their preferred pronouns, which I think is really cool. Like
Hey.
you didn't really expect that, and she was talking highly of Freddie Mercury, and we were kind of like about his singing ability, in Queen, and how, and I kind of guided the conversation to be a little open minded about, how he was, queer and flamboyant in a time where that was really dangerous to do so, and how he kind of like led the way and stuff for a
Yeah.
lot of people to come
I
out. And
it
yeah,
is really, really funny talking to boomers about, you know, celebrities, like how many women lost their minds over Elton John and Liberace. Like, Are you kidding? You know, like really, was anybody surprised? But
For real.
yeah, but you know, they yeah, it is definitely interesting. Sorry, Chase. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
You too, and I appreciate your energy, man. That brought me up.
Yeah, buddy.
All right, see ya. All right. Oh man, I'm loving it. Things are picking up. I appreciate it. Oh, we got something spicy. Okay, everybody else stay on the line. We've got plenty to talk about, but let's talk to someone in Scotland. Chris in Scotland.
Hi again, Eric.
Hey, you want to talk about J.K. Rowling?
I do indeed, yeah.
Ooh, that's spicy. All right, set the stage while I put your name down here in the lower third. What specifically do you want to talk about?
Okay,
Like, how are we going to get into this?
absolutely. My sort of question, both within myself and to you, is does J.K. Rowling have a right to express the transphobic views she has online? And does she have a right to use her money to support anti trans charities? Um, what I find when I talk to people is that so often they're not well educated on how much J.K. Rowling is actually doing. They think, oh, she just said that, trans women aren't real women, that kind of thing, which I think is objectionable on its own, but
Hmm.
people don't realize just how far she has gone.
Oh, yeah, just really, really, really crazy shit. So I'm hoping to disagree with you, because I definitely would love to get into a disagreement here, but yes, she has the right.
I see.
She does not have the. I think she wants to use that right and also escape responsibility for her actions. And I think that's bullshit. And the right to say something does not mean the right to say something without any social consequence to it. And if you're going to be a bigot using as big a platform as she has, then the response that she gets, she earns completely. I think the calling her behavior truly abhorrent and reprehensible, she's earned that.
Of course.
And I think that, yeah, I think she has the right to be a piece of shit, and she also has the responsibility of what comes right. You fuck around, you find out. She's fucked around. She continues to, and she's finding out, and she's doing the whole surprise Pikachu face, you know, about it, and it's absolutely wild. Yeah, freedom of speech.
Yeah,
In the United States, and I know J.K. Rowling doesn't live in the United States, but just the filter that I see things through, even in the United States, freedom of speech just means that the government can't discriminate against you.
yeah.
But it doesn't mean that you're not going to be a social pariah for doing shit like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that J.K. Rowling has a right to tank her legacy and to be remembered as a fucking bigot, and that is exactly how she's going to be remembered. And
I
that's
agree with
totally on
you.
her. She earned it.
At what point do you think free speech becomes hate speech? Because I know that Britain has a lot of hate speech laws. We have the Equality Act and all that.
Mhm.
Um, at what point do you think you cross the line between free speech and hate speech? I mean, if you're talking about a marginalized group of people being predators and all that stuff, I would have thought that would fall within hate speech.
So in the United States, this is going to be uncomfortable, but in the United States, free speech is hate speech. It includes hate speech.
I see.
Yeah. So those things are not unique and separate.
I see. Hmm.
I know, right? But then again, you do have responsibility for the things that you say, and there are certain kinds of speech that you're going to get in trouble for.
Yeah.
Example is you can be an open bigot, right? There's the Westboro Baptist Church. out here.
Oh,
How
jeez.
okay, so
Yeah.
I don't need to like lay the groundwork. You understand who the Westboro Baptist Church
I
is,
know
right?
them very well.
Absolutely. If they call for violence specifically,
Yeah.
they're going to get in trouble, right? That's when it moves into
See.
hate speech. But just being open bigots and pieces of shit, they're given the leeway to do so. If they lie about things to the point that like lying about specific people not in the public eye, you can get into libel,
See.
you know, that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, it's really really tricky. It's really really tricky legally how we're able how we can be able to parse those things. You know, there have been people who have gone to jail for bullying others into self-harm,
Of course.
you know, and that has been prosecuted against. And so we're what we see is we've, you know, developed these protections for specific groups of people to, you know, to not be discriminated against based on, you know, whatever characteristics. But yeah, free speech and hate speech, it's a really really tricky line legally.
No,
What
absolutely.
personally, I don't think you need to specifically call for violence. I think that, you know, what you find on J.K. Rowling's Twitter feed is hate speech.
Of course.
But that's because it's, you know, but the legal definitions there are different. I don't know how it is in, you know, in the UK where she lives, but
I think it's a little bit more left wing in the UK, so I think there is more of the hate speech laws, but yeah, nothing's happened to her. She actually lives not too far from me. She lives in Scotland.
oh, she does. I'm
And
sorry. I for some reason I thought she lived in London. I'm way off. Wow.
no, she actually she wrote Harry Potter when she lived in Edinburgh, which is in Scotland. It has a castle and all that stuff. But yeah, it's just what annoys me as well is that she wrote this series of books. It was a beacon to people who felt a little bit outcasted and who were, you know, and a lot of it's got a massive LGBTQIA following. And
Yeah.
then she turns around and basically, essentially spits in the face of the community. And the thing is, I've loved Harry Potter my entire life, and it's gotten me through some very hard times. But now I feel like if I talk about Harry Potter, I will worry that people think I'm some kind of bigot when I don't remotely support J.K. Rowling, and I haven't since she started doing all this purchased a single Harry Potter item.
Yeah, but it's hard to get rid of a Deathly Hallows tattoo, isn't it? Like for those people who've
Very
already
true.
done, like you're kind of stuck there. Yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts
so
on the whole death of the author thing?
so here's what I would like to see of it.
Okay.
I would like for us to culturally inherit things and be able to engage with ideas and things that have worked their way into our culture as something that we can deal with. Like I think that very visibly the Harry Potter franchise has distanced itself from J.K. Rowling in recent years.
Yes.
Even the entire cast of
Hogwarts.
of the show,
Sorry.
even the cast of the show when they did a reunion didn't invite her.
Indeed.
The problem is that she's getting money from us every time we buy stuff, merchandise, and that money is going towards potentially, you know, transphobic donations, you know, and things like that. And so it's tricky. It really is tricky because I read all of the books when they came out. I absolutely adored it, and I don't want to let it go because it stopped being hers when we all kind of took it on. You know, the number of trans like analogs in the books. There's so much. It feels like she has this capacity for empathy somewhere in there, and it is just not turned on. You know?
I know.
And
my sort of theory is that it's a result of trauma, because I think that with her first husband, she had a lot of trauma, and that sort of, I don't know what you'd call it, bigotry towards males carried over to bigotry towards trans people to an extent. And I don't know if that's accurate, but it's very worrying. Although I will say this, the game Hogwarts Legacy, they have a hell of a lot of gay and trans characters in it.
I heard. I haven't.
So they're pretty pro-trans.
And again, that's another sign of the series, like clearly distancing itself from the author. But then again, I also understand people who engage and go, you know what? I can no longer separate the intellectual property from its author. And for that, it is what it is. I remember that happened for me with Ender's Game. I think is it Orson Scott Card? Is that his name?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with the Ender's Game thing.
No, I absolutely, yeah. Orson Scott Card what is an author that had some really, really, really awful political opinions that I couldn't stand behind, and I absolutely loved Ender's Game. I loved the series that spawned after it, but once I learned more and more about this guy's politics, I just couldn't do it. So it's understandable if somebody lost their taste for Harry Potter because of J.K. Rowling, but I think.
What do you think is the moral thing to do in terms of interacting with Harry Potter? Just your opinion, I mean.
The moral thing to do is steal it.
Yeah. Steal it?
Yep. I
get you.
I think the moral thing to do is pirate it.
That's not a bad idea, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to get me in trouble, but that's what I think.
I mean, I'm quite happy to release a range of, counterfeit Harry Potter merchandise.
No, let's not, incriminate ourselves on a broadcast. But if that was something
for
that
legal reasons, that was a joke.
Absolutely, that was a very funny joke. And if anybody else has funny jokes like that, I am all for it. Chris, I was hoping we'd have some like deep disagreement, but I'm grateful for your company here. This is funny.
No, absolutely. And I'm sorry. I think I've talked over you a couple of times. I think it's just because there's maybe a delay and you start talking as I'm talking, or vice versa. I do apologize about that. It's not deliberate in any way.
It's exactly the same the other way around. When it comes to this, there is that delay, and absolutely at no point was I offended. And I'm glad that you had the grace to give me that same charitability. I did not mean to talk over you either. It's just the way the delay is.
Absolutely.
But Chris, I'm really glad you called in. As soon as I said it was you, a couple people in the comments were like, "Yeah, it's Chris." So you got a couple fans here.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling in.
You're very welcome, and it was great chatting to you again.
You too. Take care.
Bye, pal.
Bye. Yeah, we got jokes, everybody. Funny jokes. Definitely just jokes. Yep. Super fun. All right. Let's see here. Oh my goodness. I'm loving it. All right. Stephen, make sure you stay on the line. I still want to talk to you too. But let's talk to Ashley in Minnesota first. Ashley, you are on the show. How's it going?
Hi, Eric.
Hey. Haven't talked to a Satanist in a while. How's everything? How are you doing? What's going on?
Not a whole lot. I'm just I'm on my way to a queer beach party.
Nice.
Currently. But I have pulled over and am safe.
Good.
And I hope that you are well caffeinated and doing well.
I am. So I love it. All right, so you're celebrating Pride. You're going to a queer beach party. I am going to get baked and watch anime after this. That is
Hell yeah.
right. So, as long as you find those things that you love. Thank you for pulling over. I don't want you to put yourself in danger calling in.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did you want to talk about?
Well, I'd like to start off with the totally joke, be gay, do crime.
I mean, that doesn't even need to be a joke. There are plenty of places where it's criminal to be gay. Definitely,
Yeah.
be gay, do crime.
Be
Yes,
gay, do crime.
damn straight.
But the thing that I wanted to talk about specifically was queer youth programs
Mhm.
and just like things that make queer kids feel seen and safe.
Yeah.
Because where I live is a fairly conservative county in Minnesota, which, I mean, Minnesota is a very progressive state, but it's still very hard, especially with the Moms for Liberty types running around. And it's kind of hard to get like queer events organized, or if they're already organized, getting that information in the hands of people who need it.
Yeah.
My mind specifically turns to a lot of southern states, though Minnesota has its own issues with getting that information out to children. And I wasn't sure if there was like a list or like a a way that it could be unified.
I bet
so
you
that,
there
like,
are. And you would think that in preparation for this episode, I would have done that. And now I feel awful for not having done that.
Oh no!
No.
I super hate to call you out, Eric.
No.
Oh no!
Oh no! Actually, I absolutely deserve it. I have, in doing the types of shows that I do, being able to comfortably go, hey, I need to do better. This is the only way that I've been able to do this for 7 years. And I think this is a really, really good opportunity to reach out to the audience for people who have resources. I would love to post some good resources in the description for this video. That is something that should absolutely be in there. And if you hadn't called to ask about it, I probably would have finished the show and gone and gotten baked and watched anime. But I think that this needs to be done between those, before that. So yeah, no, for me, my involvement with like, queer resources, was that, in my late teens and early 20s, my best friend, who eventually came out as trans, worked with homeless trans youth in Los Angeles, and just kind of providing resources for people on the ground, and it was more of a social work type of thing. But people need a whole lot more than that. It's more than just, when you're at the bottom, right? We need resources for people to just be accepted, and have a place to go that isn't necessarily, I've already been kicked out. And I know those resources exist. I just don't have a good list for them. So I would love for people in the audience to help.
Yeah. If I can mention one by name.
Oh, fucking please. I mentioned 5. What do you got? Talk to me.
So the beach party I'm going to is held by a youth organization program. It's called Tigers.
Okay.
It stands for Trans, Intersex, Gender. Oh shoot. I'm blanking on the rest of that acronym.
No worries.
But it's Tigers with two G's.
T-I-double-gut-er?
Yes, correct.
Oh, I love Tiggers. All right. That's amazing. I love that.
That's what it is. Gender expansive resources and something else.
That is enough for me to be able to pull up a link and pop it in the description. I love that.
Yeah. I don't know if they're all over the states or like just a Minnesota thing. But yeah, one of my partners is a volunteer with them. So I figured I'd give them a shout out.
Absolutely. And for anybody who hasn't gone to a trans beach party, it is incredible.
Oh,
it is incredible.
You need to do them in Minneapolis specifically.
Oh yeah? Well, I absolutely loved. So when I lived in Austin, not far outside of Austin, there was a nude beach out on a Lake Travis. It was called Hippie Hollow.
Nice.
And at Hippie Hollow, there were trans groups who would go, and the love and acceptance and joy that people had with each other was something that would make me cry. Just joyfully, just amazing. Like, those groups are incredible. I hope you have such a good time today. That sounds like an amazing thing to do today.
Yeah, Minneapolis did... I don't know if you're familiar with the like Free the Nipple movement.
Mm-hmm.
That also happened in Minneapolis, and Minneapolis now lets everyone be topless in the beach, and it is wonderful.
Nice. Nice.
So, yeah.
If I find myself out that way, I'll have to look it up for sure.
Oh, for sure. And I will have to buy you, and if he comes with beers or coffees.
So both sound good. Yeah, absolutely. I'm more of a, beer has been making me feel bloated. So I only really drink
super fair.
Like if I'm going to drink a beer, I do like a good strong port or a stout. But nice. V, full on lumberjack IPA to no end. So you'll definitely see that from V. But Ashley, go enjoy yourself and be safe. Be safe driving, and have a good rest of your day. Thank you for calling in.
You as well. Bye-bye.
Bye. What a sweetheart. Oh, love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right. I'm ready to roll into the next. I am going to be keeping an eye, by the way, for resources. So anybody who posts things, please, and if you want to join me in the Discord, I think that when I do the after show after this, episode finishes, if you want to join me in the Discord, the link is in the description for this video. It's absolutely free. You don't need to sign up for membership or whatever. Just join the Discord, come say hi, hang out with us. I'm probably going to be getting together resources to put in the description for the video while I'm there. So yeah, let's move on to our next caller. We have Steven in Pennsylvania. Steven, you are on the air. How's it going?
Good, Eric. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm just getting your name here in the lower third. So while I do that, why don't you hit me? What do you want to talk about today?
Well, my proposed topic was a little fluffier, but something occurred to me when I was listening to our friend Dan in Canada a few minutes ago. Mm-hmm. And it's something that's come up with coming out. Not for me, but we've created, and we joke around a lot about it too. We've created a situation where people are able to come out younger and younger. If they have supportive parents and a supportive community around them, kids come out much younger than they used to back in the day, whatever day you want to go back to. And for those of us who are older, who went through a coming out process, either late in our teens into early adulthood or, in college or what have you, we learned how to sort of read the room and curate where and how we were coming out. So you were talking about the safety of coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. Either
when
you
it
learned that or you learned how to take a punch, and
right,
that's not
and
fun.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm just agreeing. I said yeah, and that's not fun. But go ahead, please.
So, in the community that I'm in here, I've told you before I'm in Amish country,
Hmm.
but there are, with my recent wedding and everything, a lot of local parents who had LGBT and the rest of the alphabet kids. They brought them to the wedding because they wanted them to see that this was a positive outcome for them. So there's a supportive community that they've been able to find, and stories get back to me about kids who are struggling in school and different things. But there was a situation with a friend of mine in New Jersey. My friend has a non-binary child.
Hmm.
They were very supportive of this child growing up. The school was very supportive of this child growing up. And when they went away to college, it was not that situation and got very bad, and they had to change housing, and it was all
Oh,
kinds of
jeez.
drama that went on for a long time. And the thing about it was the non-binary child wasn't really equipped to deal with this because they had grown up with supportive parents, with supportive extended family, supportive friends, supportive school, supportive community to such a degree, which is great. And I mean, we want that for everybody, but the reality of it is that doesn't happen
Yeah.
everywhere. And it also, even in my little community here last weekend, there was a Pride drag show at the theater that I volunteer for. And when they told me they were doing that, my first thought was, are you insane? Because this is like NASCAR is the biggest event that happens through here. And there had been protests of drag time story hour and all sorts of things across the region that I was like, do you really want to do this? And they had to hire security and do all of these things because they were very committed to it, which I appreciate. But a bunch of us, particularly males, showed up to be bouncers and just sort of be there in case something went wrong because we just didn't know. We were expecting protests. Nothing ended up happening. So that was great. And the show was wonderful and so on. But the bottom line is, depending on where you are, depending on your situation, you're not necessarily safe. Even if you're going to, a place of higher education or a place where you think everybody was accepting and so forth, you still kind of have to watch your back.
Hmm.
And I worry with kids in particular that we've gone out of our way to create safe spaces for them, which is wonderful, and we want that, and create an environment where they feel free to be themselves and feel comfortable being who they are. We want
Yeah.
that, but there's that survival instinct that I feel like isn't really being addressed or taught or stressed because there's kind of this attitude of you're great and you're wonderful and you do you and everybody's going to love you for you being you. That's very nice on paper, but that isn't really how life works necessarily. And I just thought it was important to mention.
It's interesting because I definitely I get that. I get what you're saying, and for me, I didn't start really getting called the F slur until I was an adult and far enough away from things to not feel attacked like and worried about it. But I feel like I do have an experience that might be similar, and I talk about being half Mexican, and I grew up in a predominantly Mexican community, right? Predominantly Mexican community. And I wasn't until I was, I think in junior in high school that I met a white supremacist who called me a fucking spick and tried to beat the shit out of me. And it surprised me. And it was the first time that I had really gotten that degree of racism. And, I've experienced it numerous times, especially after moving to Texas, before, since then. But I don't think that creating a safe place I feel like that is the right thing to do still. And when you do run up against, those shitty people, it's a really, really crummy realization to have. But it's a realization that you had to have. It's a realization that I had to have, and it's a realization that they're going to wind up having. I don't feel like my family would have done me a justice by calling me that ahead of time to prepare me for it. You know what I mean?
No.
Instead, what I
Yeah.
did have is I had teachers in high school who were around when Cesar Chavez was leading protests for pickers' rights. Right. It was that part of California that I was in at the time, and I was around people who were there who knew how to fight. The fact is, I had someone who was in the call queue who dropped out, but they wanted to know what does pride come from? Like, where does it start? And we point back to Stonewall, right? It didn't come from starting a parade. It came from throwing bricks. And I think that if anything, we should be reminding people that there is a time to throw fucking bricks. If we want to,
I agree.
Yeah, if we want to arm
Yeah, and I think
people,
that's the point I'm making.
Yeah. Then right there, I'm with you. Yeah, let's teach people how to throw fucking bricks.
Well,
it's
even with these, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, hit me. Go ahead. So there's a delay. And so you're never interrupting me. I totally understand it. And as long as you're charitable with me on the other side of it, we're so good. No, talk to me. What's up?
No, I was just going to say with the kids here, they're obviously having to learn how to throw bricks because it's just too conservative an area. And I don't disagree with anything you said. I don't want to do away with safe spaces. I know the misery firsthand of being a child who's different in this way. And so I don't want to take away the safe spaces, but it is that balance of saying, there was a great sequence on Will and Grace when they did the revival where Ben Platt played Will's date, and the kid knew nothing about the coming out process or Stonewall or anything. And rather than go have sex with him, Will sat him down on the couch and said, all right, here's the gay history, because it's not expressed. There is this sense of, and that's kind of where I'm going with this. There is this sense of everything is great now and we're all done, and we're not. And,
No.
even I yelled at my husband because there was a congressman here on the property because of it's a longer story. It's not important, but she's anti same-sex marriage. And he had his picture taken with her. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, oh, she was here for, I don't care what the fuck, pardon me, that she was here for. She would take away our marriage.
Damn straight. And also you can say fuck.
It doesn't, yeah, I know. But I'm trying to be, an elder here. But, it doesn't end. It doesn't stop any of this. And with the kids, I love the kids that I know here locally. I love my friends' kids who send them to me when they don't understand LGBT things. They're like, well, Steve knows, so they send them to me like I'm going to know everything. But I'm very happy to be in that role and give that support, and I want that for them, and I want them to be safe and happy. I really do. But the reality is they have to know how to throw bricks. They have to know,
yeah,
and how to do that you're not invincible because, well, I've come out and my family supports me. Yeah, well, that guy has a knife. So, pick up a brick, because you're going to have to know how to address that situation. And I'm not saying that to your point, it's not teaching the kids to hide. That isn't it at all. But it's knowing there are situations to the points that you were raising with Dan about safety. Like when I was working, I wouldn't go to the Middle East. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, no way.
Because I didn't want to have a target on my back for being an atheist, for being LGBT, for being too liberal in any way. So, there's that aspect of things that I feel like is not, there's a balance to it, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm totally agreeing don't do away with safe spaces. We need those, and it's
Absolutely.
important for the kids. But you have to go the other step and say, here's what's happened in the past. Here's what previous generations have dealt with. We've done a lot of work to hopefully insulate you from some of this, but the truth is you're never going to be fully insulated, and you got to read the room.
And there are times when it's appropriate to fight. I feel like in this is a community. There are not a lot of elders. There are not enough elder queers, and we know why. You know, and people had to fight, and I think that it is the responsibility of those of us who can to remind people when and where and how to throw a fucking brick. You know. And you know, for me, I'm an older millennial, and when I come across people who've also not had, you know, that, for me, it's movie marathon time. You know? It is. There's some required reading, okay, and it includes, but I'm a cheerleader. It includes Kinky Boots. There's a number, and we're gonna watch a bunch of movies, but that like. We have a responsibility to the next generation, and don't think that other cultures aren't, you know, relaying to their, you know, new generations that you have to fight for your rights. We did the fighting, and the fighting's not over, and that fighting's probably going to be passed on to them. So yeah, we need to teach them that too.
Have you ever heard of the film How to Survive a Plague?
I haven't. Do I need to check it out?
It's a documentary about ACT UP,
Okay.
and the AIDS epidemic, the late 80s through when they finally found medications that were effective. And it occurred to me when you talked about your age, I was watching it at home, and a friend came in who was a millennial, and he sat down and watched it and was in tears by the end of it. And he said, this is what happened. And I said, this is what happened, because I lived through it. You know, when ACT UP formed, I was in high school. So, to date myself, but they don't know.
You're good.
And it was so critical. Films like that as well. I mean, the comedy of, but I'm a cheerleader and stuff like that. That's all good too. But the documentaries about that. There's a great documentary about lesbian nurses who took care of gay men because no one else would.
Oh.
There's just some amazing things from stories that came out of the 80s when we were literally fighting for our lives.
Please.
And to be someone who came of age in the middle of that was really impactful. And I don't want anybody to go through that. I honestly don't. But it goes back to the education of, this is where we are now, but this is where we've come from. And it's not going to end for a while until the species matures a lot more.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful.
And for the bigots to die out. Like it takes generations, and it's difficult for people to realize just how long people live for to carry those bigoted views. But I love when, you know, when elder queers tell their stories. I think it's incredibly important, and I think it's incredible. Like I've written that down. I'm going to be way too high, I think, to watch that movie today. How to Survive a Plague.
No, yeah, don't watch it when you're high. But yeah, it's really amazing information, because as the film goes on, and then I'll shut up.
As the
film goes on,
I just want to, like, for me, I was born in '87. And I was a Christian until after 2000, you know. And so for me, growing up as a kid, the satanic panic was deeply just driven in, you know.
Oh, sure.
And so there were some very, very painfully bigoted views on AIDS that were drilled in, you know, at that time. And it feels like the most embarrassing archaeology to dive back in and re-look at history and understand just how fucked my understanding of reality was, and needing to relearn things. And then, you know, I've got to tell you, like, not coming out until I was 30, and not getting that kind of thing, I think part of that makes me feel like I don't deserve to call myself queer because I didn't deal with that shit the way everybody else had to. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel, like a poser. You know?
Yeah,
And
no, I understand. Yeah.
I'm just so grateful. I am. I appreciate you. And I don't know. I feel like if anybody listens to this call, would you agree with me that the maybe the takeaway needs to be we need to remember our history and we need to remember how to fight, and we don't just need to pass it down in words, but we need to pass it down in action. We need to show people how to fight.
I would agree with that assessment. Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say, and you've encapsulated it perfectly as usual. So,
well, Stephen, you are an absolute sweetheart. I always appreciate it when you call, and thank you.
Always my pleasure, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right, sounds good. Take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Okay, let's move on to our next caller. That's the kind of call that I wanted today. I'm really happy for it. I have somebody who's called in who is, it says here, theist, who may have a disagreement with me on J.K. Rowling. Let's see where this goes. John in Canada.
Oh.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, John. I'm doing okay. I'm just filling this out for the lower third, and I may need to turn your volume up because you're a little low. But while I kind of get this dialed in, what did you want to talk about today?
Well, I heard a call earlier about a man talking about J.K. Rowling and her views about trans people. I'm just saying that he feels that she shouldn't be doing what she's doing. I'm here to say that she has every right to her opinion and to express it in what she feels. She feels like it's a free country, a free world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that she's being denied that right now?
Well, I heard you earlier saying that because of her opinion, people should not buy her books, that it should be banned, and I don't agree with that. She's a
Why
great
not?
writer, and because you should be able to separate. You should be able to separate the art from her opinions.
No.
Why not?
Because if somebody acts like a piece of shit and you treat them like a piece of shit, they deserve it. Right?
What makes her a piece of shit? She's a great writer. You yourself said that you were a fan of her. You were a fan of her.
So I was a fan of the things that she wrote in Harry Potter. I'm definitely not a fan of the writing she puts on Twitter.
Just because, same person. What difference does it make? What difference does it make? It's the same person.
It makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference, John.
What difference does it make?
Okay, so have you read her tweets? Have you actually gone in and read the transphobic, bigoted bullshit that she puts out there?
I didn't, but I know she's entitled to her opinion.
Okay, so you don't know what you're talking about. You haven't actually read what's going on, and you're chiming in for what? Like, shouldn't you at least know what's going on or what she's saying before you call in about this?
She's saying that trans people, men are men and women are women, which is an absolute fact.
So, do you think that that's what the argument going on is? Do you think that that's what's at issue here?
Okay, I'm not here to argue about trans people.
No. You opened this up, John. Do you think that that's what people are talking about? Do you think that that's what's at issue here?
Well, yes. Isn't that what this is about?
No.
Why not?
Because we're talking about gender, not sex.
Well, I'm not getting into that. The point
why
is...
Not? No, why not? No, I love that you're skipping over it because you don't want to actually talk about the tough part, but the tough part is why she's getting dragged, and she deserves to be dragged, so let's talk about it. Do you know what the difference is between sex and gender?
Well, according to you, sex is your body, gender is your mind. Right?
No.
That's social construct?
No. So your sex is your body and your gender is a social thing. It's the way that we treat people. Like,
That's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said.
so you said gender is your mind. It's a little bit different, but anyway, you know what? I might have been, nitpicking. So, okay. So do you think that, like when we're talking about social policies, are we talking about sex or gender?
Yeah, I think you're talking about gender, right? That's what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Is J.K. Rowling talking about gender, or is J.K. Rowling conflating the two?
She's not complaining. She's telling the truth. That there's no difference.
She's okay. So number one, she's has absolutely been putting out that that trans people are predators, that they're sexual deviants, and that they're mentally ill. None of those things are true.
Okay.
That has been proven false. Not only is that not true, but that is incredibly. Hold on. Not only is that not true, John. Not only is that not true, but it is incredibly dangerous because it actually inspires people to violence.
What's inspiring the violence is that anyone who disagrees with the woke agenda, anyone is automatically canceled. And J.K. Rowling is an example of that because you yourself were a fan of hers.
So we will get there. We will get there, and I'm happy to get there, but I don't want you to skip past what I just said. Can you repeat to me what I told you?
You're saying that people are entitled to violence when sex and gender are not treated differently.
So there's more to that. I said that J.K. Rowling has been calling trans people predators and sexual deviants and mentally ill. And it's that communication that can and does inspire people to violence. So do you think that trans people are sick in the head, that they're sexual deviants, and that they're predators or pedophiles? Do you think that that's what trans people are trying to do? Oh, John, you hung up. Do you not want to talk about that? Do you not? It's funny. People want to talk about free speech. Free speech to what, John? Free speech to say what? Oh, that's sad. It's sad you don't want to actually, stand up for the bullshit that you're saying. Is it? No. John hung up because John can't deal with the fact that there's more to that conversation. It's not just about sound bites. It's about holding people accountable for the bullshit that they're actually doing. And if you don't want to get into the details of it, it's because, if it makes you that uncomfortable, you need to hang up because you're realizing that you're standing up for some bigoted fucking crazy shit. Then bye. What a coward. Let's talk to Marcus in Arkansas. Marcus, you are on the air. How's it going?
Hey.
Whoa, hold on just a second. Before you say anything else, I had to turn the volume way up for the last caller. And so you blasted my ears out. Not your fault. I should have been on the audio for that. I'm so sorry. Again, hey, Marcus, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steven. I just had a weird little call. People I watch the atheist things on YouTube, and then sometimes in the feed it'll show me some Christian things.
Sure.
So I watched a couple of them, and then people are talking about these hell claims, and they died and went to hell. They sound kind of convincing, but I can't believe that. But are these people just charlatans, or do you think that they really believe this?
I think it's a mix.
Or do you think that? A mix.
I think it's a mix, and I think that a lot of people actually do believe that they may have been to hell, and we have good reasoning for it. Number one, what's interesting is that a lot of people's concepts of hell are really, really dependent on what socially they think about it, right? So if you are, brought up in a church that has hell as a place that is devoid, taken away from God, if you're from, a Mormon type faith that believes that the worst hell is outer darkness, then that is what, you may have quote unquote experienced. If you believe in the hellfire and pitchforks and all of that, it kind of tends to look like that. And I feel like that is a hint that gives us a little bit more insight into the hell claims. And that is that those hells fit with their cultural understanding of what hell must be like. I feel like we have a whole lot of phenomena, right? We have things like lucid dreaming, night terrors. There are plenty of occasions where people's brains just go nuts, either chemically induced or not. There are lots of reasons why someone might hallucinate. What's interesting is how those people justify those hallucinations in their own brains. Not everyone wants to admit that they may have hallucinated or may have had a lucid dream or something like that. Or they may come from a culture that reinforces those things as real, right? If you come from a community where going to hell, having visions, have you ever heard of the blessings of the spirit?
No. No, sir.
So this was one thing that was in my church, and it was essentially once you accepted Jesus into your heart, you had the Holy Spirit living within you, you would get essentially a superpower. And there are people who walk around thinking that they have superpowers.
Wow.
And
blessings of the spirit.
Yep. And so that one of them is, let's see, there are a couple. So one of them is being able to see truth immediately. You can always see through to truth and know what is true. You have people who are blessed with prophecy, and they think that they are that they are a mouthpiece for God. And basically whatever aberrant thoughts drop into their head, they think it's divinely inspired. You have people who...
And none of these things have ever been proven, of course.
No, not at all. But when everyone buys in like that, it just takes on a life of its own. So the ability to lay on hands and heal others. A lot of people think that is the gift that is given to them, that they are able to heal others. And it's a really, really wild thing on the outside thinking about it, but it seemed perfectly normal at the time. And so for somebody to say that they had an experience of hell, my first thought is not ever to call them a liar. I don't think that they're lying. I think that they may genuinely be convinced that they had some kind of experience of hell. It doesn't mean that it's real, but it is based in something. And it's our job to kind of pick those things apart from there.
I guess let me go ahead and tell you about my most convincing one of these. Not convincing at all, but this is a guy that I kind of really like, though. You ever heard of the group 3-6 Mafia?
Yeah.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so 3-6 Mafia. Okay. I guess the main satanic guy from the group.
Mm-hmm.
He was, pretty much died of an overdose at 40 years old, I believe. But this guy was always doing a bunch of drugs, always rapping very satanic or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this guy, he claims to have died and gone to hell. And then he described it with such vivid description. Of course, I don't believe it, but it is still like a guy that I really like, though. But he's talking about like liquid metal, and you would get risen into the air and brought down to the ground, and it's crazy. But
that sounds like a very active imagination.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like, basically. That's what it sounds like. And then you listen to these other guys who have these hell claims. You can't believe it, but they just talk with such fervor. So I don't know, but can't believe it though.
No, I'm right there with you. I do want to put a pin in your mic and talk about that in just a second, but I don't want to lose my train of thought. So I definitely advise that if you like a band, you like a personality or something like that, make sure you limit it to what it is that they do that you like, because your heroes are always going to let you down.
Definitely.
I've definitely learned that in the atheist space. um, and I've seen it elsewhere. Major academics, people who are brilliant, who have the emotional, the emotional maturity of a 5-year-old. Just because you've developed in one area doesn't mean you've developed in others. If this person has these hell beliefs, I don't think it particularly means that they are uniquely, delusional. I think it's a delusion that is propped up by huge communities and is supported. And because of that, a lot of people think that it's perfectly rational. So we just take it in stride, take it in stride.
Yep.
I think it's wild. And I think that particularly, especially when you get those really, really wild claims, I've talked to Pentecostals who, like, I thought of my church as Diet Pentecostal. Every once in a while you have somebody trying to speak in tongues, but like you go to a Pentecostal church and people are rolling in the aisle, speaking in tongues, getting possessed by angels and shit. Like it's wild. It's wild. And I have to imagine, if you're deconverting from that, you're not just coming to terms with the God thing. You're also having to come to terms with the fact that everybody there has bought into a really, really, really cringy demonstration of their faith.
Yeah, sounds like a cult. Yeah.
Not just culty, but embarrassing to come out of. At a certain point, you kind of get that. What's the word I'm looking for? Sunk cost.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Bought in heavy.
Yeah. If the sunk cost fallacy. I've already put $500 in this slot machine. I feel like I need to keep putting money in until I get something out.
3 more pulls to get it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I have this really shitty car. I just spent $5,000 replacing the transmission. So now I need to spend another $5,000, for something else. And I already put this much money, so I'm just going to keep putting money into this problem.
Might as well.
Yeah. So I try to have empathy for those folks because definitely, it's layered on. It's not just, this feeling of breaking up with Christ. It's also this coming to terms with this show that everybody's been putting on that is just deeply cringy. Deeply, deeply cringy. Oh, yeah. So for some reason, your audio, no matter how I adjust it, it's peaking. Do you know what I mean by peaking?
Oh yeah. I'm kind of taking this opportunity to make this call, and then this headset is at 10%, and I didn't want to switch it over to another one, so that's probably what it is.
Got it. Okay. Usually when that's the case, even if you just move the mic a little further from your mouth, that can help adjust the peaking. Because
I've actually got headphones, earbuds, and they're at like less than 10% right now. I could switch to some different ones, or
you're just in a shit situation. Okay, so next time, are you calling online or on your phone? Phone. Next time, try and pop the earbuds out and just use the phone.
Sounds great.
All right, but Marcus, thank you for calling in.
Thanks for having me, Stephen. And just a quick question: where's V at? V's in the hospital?
No, V's upstairs sleeping.
Okay, sleeping. Got it.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get high and watch anime later. V's just so here's the thing: we moved to Portland, and V is like crazy active, right? Sitting on the board for a nonprofit. They're working 2 jobs. They started this entire support system for people who are publishing. They're active in like just 10 million groups. I'm active. I've been like trying to tell V to stop doing so much, but like they made a choice to get really involved in the community and things that they're doing. And so not regularly hosting SKEPGEN is one of those things that, was part of that choice, but we're still happily engaged and love. V's doing great. They're upstairs and everything's good.
Okay. I hear you. Great. Okay. Great update that I didn't get. All right. Well, I'll let you go. Thanks for the call. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Take care.
Later. Get it.
All right. And for people, I had a few people asking, if I were to call in, what would I do? So our call screener Bree is really, really good for working with people through that kind of thing. If you have the ability, if something's wrong with your headset or your earbuds, switching to your regular phone can help. For people who want, really crystal clear audio and they're wondering what kind of microphone to get, I can just tell you off the top of my head, what we used at the ACA was an AT2020. It's Audio Technica. The AT2020 is $100. Last I checked, it's a USB microphone. Plug it right in, and for that price point, it punches above its weight class. It's really, really good. I use a Shure SM7B. That's kind of the next level up, and that's considerably more expensive. But like, if you're just thinking about going into podcasting or into YouTube or something like that, and you don't want to drop a shit ton of money, AT2020 is my recommendation. So for people who are wondering about that, yeah. All right. Bree says he wasn't peeking that much when talking to me. I think he got excited talking to Eric. Oh, what a sweetheart. Oh, yay. Well, we understand that. All right. So it is... Man, it's already been like an hour and 40 minutes. So I want to take some time and actually like hang out with people. Before I, drop that, I am going to be reading the super chats. So definitely stick around. I'm going to read those and respond. For people who want to join in the after show, the link to the Discord for the after show where we just hang out for a little while and it's a lot more chill. It's a lot more relaxed. Link is in the description for this video. I'd be happy to see you there. All right, time to read super chats. I know that a couple of times people have popped in super chats, but there's a delay. Like there's a delay of about a minute between things live and it showing up on YouTube. So for people who haven't had their super chats read because I was at the very, very end, that's why, and I apologize. But I do see that Jason donated, did a super chat and says, thanks for what you do. Happy Pride. Jason, thank you. Thank you for your support and happy Pride. And thank you for everybody who supported the show. Really, there's no way I'd be able to subsidize this myself. And the show is pretty close to being able to subsidize itself. And I'm really, really grateful for it. I think that it's worth doing and I'm happy to do it. And I'm happy that you joined me today. If you do want to support the show, consider going to patreon.com/skepticgeneration. That's patreon.com/skepticgeneration. I charge once per episode that I do live. I don't charge for clips or anything like that. It's just once per live episode. And that obviously goes out free on YouTube. So it's just to help support making sure that this can happen for everybody. That said, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate you. I'm really, really hoping that while I'm in the Discord doing the after show, people can help me gather some resources to pop in the description for this video. So if you're watching this later, hopefully there are going to be some good resources in there for you. Thank you for your patience and all of you for sticking around. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day and hope you're having a great Pride and celebrating it however you want to. It's important, we're all different and it doesn't necessarily need to be in a big parade. Sometimes it can just be spending that time with people you love and giving them a call, telling them that you love them. It's a great time to do that. It's never not a great time to do that, but if we need an excuse, this month is a wonderful excuse to do that. That said, I'm Eric Murphy. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad we had this talk.